Hello everyone and welcome to my review / should you buy the Aston Martin GT4 car in iRacing. Now I myself have driven GT4 Class for a very long time. I've done a lot of Porsche GT4. I won the Raw special event at the start of the year, so I'm kind of going to give my opinion on the car, whether I think you should buy it, and hopefully guide you in the way to owning this car and having a lot of fun. So, if you're more new to iRacing and you may be in the rookie class, D class, license system, you may be wondering what the GT4 can do for you, like what races you can race it in. So, starting on the 15th of March, which is the start of Season 2 in iRacing for the 2022 year, you'll be able to drive it in a fixed series, which is D class. So as soon as you come out of rookies, you'll be able to drive it 15-minute races, fixed setup, so you don't need to worry about doing any setups, and you'll be able to choose from the 4 GT4 cars. And then once you maybe progress and get your safety rating up to a C class, you'll then be able to race it in IMPC, which is IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, which is a multi-class race between TCR cars, so touring cars, and the GT4 cars. And that was a 30-minute race series, a little bit longer, a little bit easy to get safety rating, and it's really a good stepping stone to like move on to GT3 in B class and A class, or maybe even Formula cars, depending on what you kind of plan to do on iRacing. So, you join me here at Silverstone in the Porsche GT4 car. You're probably thinking, why are you in the Porsche when this video is on the Aston? Now, if anyone's here returning to try and find out whether they want to buy the Aston and they currently do race GT4, the most likely car that they're going to drive is the Porsche GT4. It's been the best car for a very long time. It's usually not amazingly liked, especially by new drivers, for some of its driving characteristics. And it's a really good benchmark just to show you kind of what to expect from the GT4 class, or what was previously to expect if you are coming from previous GT4 experience. So just to reiterate what we're going to do, we're going to go into garage, we're going to just run the sprint setup. I'm not going to change anything, I'm just going to let iRacing do the setup, so there's no setup trickery in how these are driving. It's simply how they drive, how you can drive these cars for free, basically. The iRacing setups are for free, and I've got a few little telemetry things in front of us so you can spectate my driving, and yeah, no, I'll join you when we're on a lap. So now you join me just going into the club section of the Silverstone circuit. So we're going to have a little look around the lap in this GT4 Porsche. I'm going to talk you through the characteristics of this car and what you were to expect with this, and kind of how this compares to the Aston, and we're going to go over that more when we drive the Aston. But something to know about the Porsche GT4 is it's always been a bit of a polarizing car. It drives pretty well, but it has a weird characteristic under the braking, which is one that you kind of need to exploit when driving. It does love to understeer, and the suspension can be quite tricky, especially across bigger bumps. Silverstone's a great place for it because it's nice and flat, but when you come to like needing to mount some curbs, let's say a Knock Hill, which may be on the calendar next season, I'm not sure, it does get more difficult to drive. It's not necessarily the hardest car in the world to drive, but it can be very easy to spin the car, because as you can see there, it will kick out at you if you're not careful, but for a beginner's car in general, it's not too bad. But then again, it hasn't been adopted by everyone, and there's a lot of people that still really don't like GT4 because of some of the characteristics that these cars do possess and have possessed in the past. So as we come right into Maggots and Beckett's here, you'll see that these GT4s, they get up to nearly the speed of the GT3s. They are relatively fast, but they lack a lot of downforce, and you really have to work it and sit it on the edge of the tyre in order to like perform well in these cars, and in order to complete the best lap times that you can. But as I said, it's not a car that's always been for everyone, but I've always liked it, and I've run lots of competitions and so many hours in this car now, it's unbelievable. So, you join me now in the sim with the new Aston Martin GT4 Vantage. And firstly, what I'll show you is that we're going to go onto the stock iRacing sprint setup just to make all comparisons as best we can. And the first thing to note as we step into the car is you sit a lot lower, so you don't see as much. You don't sit from quite an elevated driving position. You can change that, and the way you would change that if you were wanting, if maybe you were moving from the Porsche GT4 to the Aston, is you could go Control F12 and it'll bring up this camera cockpit type area, and you could just go, and I think it's the Z axis, yep, you could just bump yourself up a couple notches in order to get that height that you would maybe experience from the Porsche. However, we're not going to do that today. I'm pretty happy with how the car's set up already. So we can just save that to the car, no need to get rid of that. Cool, right. So, now we jump into the car and we're going to take it out of the pit lane. I'm going to talk about the first thoughts I have with this car. The first thing you'll notice is it sounds absolutely incredible. It is probably one of the best sounding cars on iRacing that they've added in a very long time. And so the notable characteristic that you'll get from this car initially is that it is great at rotating. This car rotates so well compared to the Porsche. So the Porsche is already a good car, and it rotates really well, very good at handling, and that's what makes it so good in sim, and that's what makes it one of the best cars in GT4, and arguably the best car for a very long time now. Now, if you've drove multiple GT4 cars and you're coming with experience to this, the best way you can describe this Aston Martin GT4 is that it is basically an in-between between the BMW GT4 and the Porsche GT4. This car definitely has more straight line speed than the Porsche, and it also has a little less traction on the exits that you would tend to get from something like the BMW, which obviously front engine rear wheel drive, whereas the Porsche is mid-engined rear wheel drive, so it just has a little bit more weight over the rear axle. However, the way that this Aston rotates in the corners is excellent, and it really does raise the bar from something like the BMW to the Porsche, and I can imagine that this car will be very competitive going into the future of GT4 racing with the new bot. And I don't see the Porsche's reign lasting much longer as the out-and-out fastest car. So as we take this through towards the last section of the lap in club, you'll see get a little bit of oversteer there, but it's nice and controllable. And the best thing about this car is it doesn't really have the same understeer that you tend to get with the Porsche. This makes it a lot easier for newcomers to be able to place the car where they want it to be. Yes, it has a bit of oversteer that you will have to kind of sit it on the edge and correct. But I think for a newcomer coming into a car, it's a lot more rewarding. It feels a lot more like you'd expect a GT4 to feel like. It feels basically like a GT3 without the error, which is effectively what GT4s are. Obviously they have a tiny bit less power. I think this is pushing around about 450 brake horsepower, weighing about 1,465 kilos. But yeah, the first initial impressions that I've had from driving this car in the hour or so, maybe two that I've got in it now from various little sessions I've done throughout the night, is that it's just a really rewarding car to drive, and I think it's actually pretty easy to pick up for newcomers, especially to the class. And I see that if you're starting in Mazdas in the rookie class and you want to like try and step into a vehicle which is going to prepare you for GT3 racing, which is by far the most popular in iRacing, it is what everyone goes for in the special events, and it's what everyone races on the weekly basis to get iRating, mainly. It is a great preparation for that, and it kind of teaches you the characteristics that you'd want to learn before making that step. And with it now being available in D-Class with the fixed series, you don't have to worry about setups. I just think it's a perfect option, and I probably would choose the Aston, especially if you're looking to kind of challenge yourself a little bit. I don't think it's perfectly easy to drive, but I do think there is some things that you can change. So if I just go through the boxes here, you can see that in in-car adjustments, on the standard setup it says TC1, which is really low. And I'll demonstrate through the next corner that you know, if you get out on exit, it will let you slide, and it won't exactly kick in too early and stop you from sliding. As you can see there, the green light's flashing is when the TC kicks in. But if we up that to maybe a 5, say you're more of a beginner, you don't really want to be dealing with the understeer, as you can see, the TC is kicking in a lot sooner. It's helping me control the power, control the slide, and it's overall a good aid in order to be able to get used to the cars sooner and not have to worry about the little bit of an oversteer problem that this car has. Other than that though, it is a very, very good car to drive, and I'm going to focus for a second and take you on more of a hot lap. You now join me for a lap in the Aston Martin Vantage GT4 car here at Silverstone GP. We're rounding Club Corner and starting our lap. We now go past the wing complex recently built down towards turn 1, which is Abbey. Going to keep it in 5th gear, introduce it in, try and nibble as much of the curb as possible as we set up going as tight as possible around Farm Curve, and we're going to aim it towards the apex at Village, down into 3rd, setting up for the loop, down into 2nd, trying to hit the apex really hard around there considering that the pillar blocks out a lot of the vision. We're now onto the Wellington Straight as we head towards the Brooklands complex and past the BRDC building. 100 meter board, use all the entry curbing, trail the brake off, try and cut it as tight as possible around there. Lovefield, you want to double apex it, aim to get the exit. That wasn't amazing, but we're going to continue with the lap anyway. Now we're down towards past the old pit straight where the start finish line used to be, and towards Copse Corner. We have no one on our inside, so there can be no controversy today, and we try and maximise the exit there through Copse. We now head into one of the most famous complexes of corners in the world, Maggots, Beckett's, and finally Chapel. A little bit wide on the exit, but making sure we don't get that 1X. Down the Hangar Straight, and we're going to now go to the last fast corner on the track, which is Stowe. Looking towards the 100 meter board. Down to 4th gear. This car has very long gears. Exit of Stowe, all the track limits we can. And now we're into Vale and Club. Down to 2nd, trying to hustle it through the final section of Club, punching it towards the line, and that is a lap of Silverstone GP in the Aston Martin Vantage GT4 car. I hope you enjoyed, and it's not the best lap in the world, but it's a decent benchmark with a commentary alongside too. So what then is my final verdict on the Aston Martin GT4 car? So I personally think that it's a really, really good car to drive. It's the best GT4 edition, I think, since they added the Porsche, and I think it is probably even better than the Porsche to drive. I think that if you're a newcomer to iRacing, you know, it provides really, really good racing without the dirty air of GT3s, and a great stepping stone to propel you towards like the GT3 cars if that's where you plan to go, and it's a really good thing for rookies to step into, I think, and with the right adjustments to traction control, etc., it can be really quite easy to drive. I really hope you've enjoyed this video today. I really hope you found it informative. Please give it a like if you can, it really, really helps me out, and subscribe if you want to see more of this content, because that'll let me know that you enjoy this and you want to continue watching some. But as always, thank you very, very much for watching, and until next time, see ya.